Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. Episode 73. Yes, that's a 7 and a 3 next to each other. Episode 73 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. As always, I'm Gary, and I'm here with Byron. How you doing today, Byron?
Gary, I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to bring the second half of the Steve Maxwell interview to our listeners.
Definitely going to be part two. Part two is going to be a great episode, so stick around and listen to some more words of wisdom from Steve Maxwell.
Yep, if you just stumbled upon this episode, you could listen to it, no problem. It also wouldn't hurt to go back and check out the last, kind of where I left off. So it was wonderful talking to Steve Maxwell.
Yeah, like we said last week, he's a legend. He's been around forever. Big time jiu-jitsu guy, big time kettlebell person, and then like you said, just listen to him talk about being a minimalist and his philosophies on life and other things there. He's a very knowledgeable person. We can learn a lot from him. Absolutely.
It's just, he's got all this knowledge of jiu-jitsu and health and fitness, but he's just an interesting guy to talk to. I mean, you can't have a better mix, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Gary, how was your week, buddy?
It was a good week. Very good week. How about yours?
It was good. Finally broke that terrible weather we've been having, and we got some nice temperatures up in here finally. Boy,
I tell you, I was out all day today, all day yesterday, so I'm loving the weather right now.
Well, good. By out, you mean playing around in the outside, huh?
Playing around outside, definitely. And speaking of playing around, how's your back doing?
Much better. Much better. I've been doing some different stretches. I feel like I kind of missed the boat on back stretches for a while. You know, to stretch my back, I'd do like a twisting motion.
Uh-huh.
And that's about it. That's how I stretch my back. But it also bends like forward and backwards a little bit. And I really don't have much flexibility in my back in those forward and backwards motions, especially like in the kind of the upper half of my back.
Yeah.
It's really pretty stiff. So I've been working that. I've been using my foam roller,
That's
getting
what I was
a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, I've had great results with the foam roller, and it's made especially on my back, it's made a big difference in my back and my hamstrings.
Yeah, I think I had a bulging disc, herniated one of my discs, and my lower back was acting up because my lower back has to do too much work, flexing when my upper back does not want to help out. So if I get my upper back to be a little more flexible, I'll be in better. I'll be in business.
There you go. So that's what counts.
I've been able to roll with it. It's not been a big deal, but I do wake up and it's a little stiff. But this morning was the best morning yet.
When you're 53, you'll be looking like the hunchback in Notre Dame.
I hope not, but there's hope I can steer clear of that. Got a few years to go still. We'll see.
Let's hope so.
Yep. Gary, we've got some good news about our email list / audiobook stuff.
Are we up to 10?
No, we were up to 3 for a little while. It kind of leveled off there, and I put 2 more in there.
Sweet.
What I'm working on here is a way to kind of help the podcast hopefully break even someday.
Yes.
Because there are some expenses that are incurred with this podcast. So I'm going to make an audiobook that's going to eventually be for sale. It's called
Awesome.
It's called Your First Year of BJJ, just to kind of get you going, kind of the basics. And while I'm making it, I'm going to put the chapters up in our Dropbox folder for the people who are on the email list. They could check them out for free and kind of let me know what they think. So if you want to get on that list, you can go to the Facebook page or go to our website, bjjbrick.com, and there's a little place to put your email address in there, and we'll send out your email. It looks like we're doing it every Tuesday, sending out an email, and at the bottom of the email, it'll have a link to the Dropbox folder with the audiobooks. There's 5 in there now, and the ones I just put in there, I put Chapter 1, Finding the Right Gym for You, and that's during your first year of BJJ, and I did Chapter 3, Benefits of BJJ. I'm editing Chapter 2 now, so it's looking like it'll be like maybe a 9 or 10 chapter little audiobook. Not super long, but a way that some of the fans could help support the podcast if they want to.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And I love the way you're doing it. You don't just go chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. You go chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 2. That's the way to do it. You're original.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Chapter 2, I got it all written down. Chapter 2 was your first month in BJJ, and that's kind of a long one. I'm working on that, so I kind of did the first 2 shorter ones, and then I'm going back to the second one. But I've got 8 or 9 different chapters I want to put on this thing. It looks like now, and I don't know if we'll ever if you want the book, I'll probably send it to you. But at one point in time, it'll be available to download for a certain price, and that price will go to help us out. So.
That's awesome.
But right now it's free. Just get on the email list, and you'll get access to that pretty easy.
So definitely check that out. Get on the email list and get your name in there and get it every Tuesday.
Gary, the quote of the week, man. So
we've got a quote of the week from a real important person, very important person.
Well,
this is a VIP squared.
Yeah, a square anyway. Typically, we'll get like the quote from the last week's interview, and we'll put that in the next week's podcast. But last week was the same as this week as Steve Maxwell, and he did, interview went long, and we didn't get a quote from him, let alone 2. So I'm looking online. I'm trying to figure out a quote about work and versus output, and kind of find something about that we could talk about. I can't find anything good. So I'm typing in different phrases in Google, trying to find something that helps out. I can't find anything, and I eventually just kind of wrote one. And it feels weird.
Yeah, since you wrote it, let's have you say it.
Okay.
Here we are for the quote of the week, episode 73.
Episode 73, quote of the week. Don't measure the work, measure the change, and use that to evaluate your work.
And to be honest, I think that's awesome. Byron had told me or said it to me before we started, and it's one of the things I always talk about. And it was funny because we really didn't even talk about the topic or anything. So when he said it, I was like, man, that's great. But the big thing is measure the change, not the work. Who cares if you worked out 6 hours a day, every day? Are you working out properly? Are you drilling the correct stuff? Are you working out with a purpose? And really what matters is the results, the change.
Yeah.
And, that's the end result. That's what we all do everything for the end result. And, the old saying, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and I think it has great application on the mat or any sport, and also like at a job, at work. You come in, you clock in, and you get paid. But really, if you're measuring the change, that shows you how much you're able to do for that day. And then look at what work you do that gets you that change, and that's where you should be spending your time. Same thing on the mat. Yes, definitely. I know it's hard to find those, like the good parts of your training that count for the most, but part of your training, like a few minutes, these select minutes today count way more than 10 times that yesterday or earlier on in the day. So it's really trying to figure out what makes the biggest change for you, and evaluate that and make that stronger. Yeah, and you'll see tremendous gains when you, like Byron said, when you're dialed in and know exactly what you need to be working on, how to do it, where to work on, and all of a sudden everything will just jump through the roof. Your gains will go crazy. If you were talking about jiu-jitsu, your jiu-jitsu would just be so much better on the mat. So measure your gains. Measure how you improve. Yep. So that's the quote. Don't measure the work, measure the change, and use that to evaluate your work. Gary, I'm not going to put anything on you, but I did come up with a quote here. So next week, if you're going to find something a little better than what I cranked out, that'd be awesome. I don't think it's possible, but I'll try. Make it like a rhyme or something, Good thing is Google is my friend. I'll just take credit for it. There you go. Well, I Googled this phrase and many of the short, chopped it up, and I couldn't find anything that matched it, so I feel pretty safe about it. Gary, let's do the article of the week. We
got a good one for you this week. Everybody's favorite martial artist, Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. This article was on jujitsubrotherhood.com, and I'll put a link to that on the show notes for you. Make it easy to find. But this is 4 jiu-jitsu lessons from Bruce Lee.
And it's kind of crazy because Bruce Lee wasn't really a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's a martial artist, and what he does can translate over to the art of jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. Let's just jump right into the first lesson he had here, the value of cross-training. And he would find little things in other martial arts and bring them over to different martial art. And he was one of the first to really see value in martial arts that he didn't practice necessarily, and try to incorporate that into his style or no style, or what he was doing to see if it would work, because the body movements work, and it's up to you to figure out how they work for you and get them to work into what you want to do.
I really like, we talk about cross-training, but anybody who watched the early UFCs realized that there wasn't a lot of cross-training back then. And, that was even after Bruce Lee. And you would see a straight jiu-jitsu guy against a straight wrestler or a straight kickboxer who had absolutely no ground game getting taken down and just getting murdered on the ground. And nowadays, everybody's very skilled in every, standing, on the ground, submissions. It's a different game out there today. That cross training has made a big difference.
Yeah, it was interesting to see like the strict arts of this is what I'm going to do. But even like Hoyce had strikes. He was good at the strikes he did, but there were guys that didn't have a clue about the ground. There were guys that didn't understand massive parts of the game. I always liked the boxer with only one glove on.
With the one glove.
he knew he was going to need to be able to grapple, but he didn't really know how to deal with it. So I'm just going to wear one glove.
Trivia question, Byron. Who was that boxer?
If I would have known, I would have said his name, man. Do you know who it is?
Art Jimerson.
Art Jimerson?
Jimerson. Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Gary, I don't know how you do it, but your mind is like a steel trap. Or your Google skills are fast.
No, I just used to be a UFC fanatic. That's why.
You've probably seen that one clip like 1,000 times, huh?
Yeah, yep. Number 2, the importance of conditioning. And going back to early UFCs and everything, we see how important conditioning is. But, he stressed being in shape for fighting. And he walked the walk. You have to be in condition. You have to have a great work ethic and go out there and not just, as we were saying earlier, put in the time, but work out smart, work out for fighting. Running, you can run all you want, but that'll make you a better runner. He had conditioning for fighting. So, great advice there.
Yeah, and you're going to see that come up in today's interview with Steve Maxwell. He's going to talk about not doing cardio for cardio's sake, but doing specific things that will help you with what you want to do, like on the mat or whatever your goals are. If you want to run, you'll be better at running, but it may not really help you on the mat too much.
Unless you're trying to run away from your opponent.
Gary, man, that's so
bad.
True, man.
That was bad.
That's why I'm naturally try to keep my running up. I don't ever want to lose that.
Yeah,
it's got to be ready to get the heck out of there. Number 3 on the list of Bruce Lee lessons is the virtue of mental flexibility, and I think this is jiu-jitsu is perfect. Like, you've got to be mentally flexible to deal with all the variety of situations coming at you, and to deal with the adversity you're going to face throughout your journey on the mats here. It's just something that's going to you're going to learn it over and over again, and you're going to be you can be like super flexible. You can put your foot behind your head mentally. Like your mental flexibility is going to be immeasurable. Maybe.
Yeah. My favorite part of this is basically the last sentence. If you're occasionally willing to experiment instead of sticking to rigid formulas, it'll pay big dividends. And, there's your mental flexibility. Try different stuff, and try it in practice. Try it with your buddies, and it'll help you when you're out there in real competition or in real life self-defense applications. And number 4, and I think most of us have always heard this quote from Bruce Lee, but absorb what is useful, reject what is useless. And, he's just talking about not every move is going to work for you. They give the example of a 300-pound inflexible guy with tree trunk thighs who squats a small house. They're saying it's going to be hard for that guy to have a very good triangle. So we all have physical limitations. We're all built a little bit differently, so some moves may not work as well. But I think you still need to, don't just not learn them, don't just not try them. You're going to need to learn them, and it may become your move. You have to get out there and try it and see what happens.
Yeah, give them a shot, and there's benefit to learning moves even if you're not going to ever be good at them, because you'll have them in your memory bank and you'll understand how they work a little bit better than if you just see them.
Yeah, and when somebody's setting you up, trying to set you up, you're going to be like, I know what he's doing right there. He's going for a triangle, and hey, I need to get some posture. I need to get ready to defend, instead of just being totally clueless and you've got your posture broken, and next thing you know, you fell asleep.
Yeah. I think with this point number 4 here, absorb what's useful, reject what is useless, it's a great example of the fundamentals. Like, you've got to do certain things fundamentally sound, but after that, you've got to figure out what's good for you, what works for your body type, what your goals are, what positions you like, and use those. And if it's not for you, it doesn't mean that the technique is not good. It just means that you're better spending your time developing techniques that will fit your game well.
Well, let me ask you a question on that there, Byron.
Okay.
Let's say I'm a member of Byron Jabara's School of Jiu-Jitsu, and you have 40 guys.
You also signed a 3-year membership, buddy. Thank you.
You're auto-debiting me?
Yes.
Yeah. But what would you recommend to somebody in a situation where, let's say they're a new student, and even though there may not be a beginner class, or they may be in a beginner class, the instructor has to show a little bit of everything. And let's say you get to the point where you're trying to work on your game. Like, how would somebody work on their game in a class environment without alienating the teacher or the other instructors? Would you wait till after class and maybe do a little rolling on the side, or what would you recommend? It's
tough because you need a teacher showing you an armbar for mount, and you're in your first month and you cannot obtain mount. It's not going to do you much good, but it's still a valuable technique.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to what you were saying just a minute ago about the fundamentals.
Yeah, and that by learning this technique, maybe a year before you can even get mount. Some people, but it's still a good technique, and you're still going to understand it better. So learn what the instructor's teaching. Take it for what you can. Typically speaking, like I think we talked about the last interview with Steve Maxwell. Like, classes start off with technique that's fairly simple, and then get a little harder, and then a little bit harder technique that builds on that or branches off to something a little different. So that first part of the technique is the part that you really should be working on, and you're going to work on it over and over again as you branch off to the next little part of the technique there. So I in your class, pay attention, work hard. It's going to pay off. When you're rolling, it's okay to have a game plan or to have something that you want to do and focus on specifically, even if it wasn't what you did today. So yeah,
I like that. Like you're saying, have a game. You can work your own little game right there when the rolling part starts.
Yeah, I think that's the way it is for everybody. Yeah. Even if you're an advanced student in an advanced class, you might not be doing the moves you want to do today. So just learn them and take what you can from them. And there's a good chance, at some tournament or somebody's going to be doing those moves to you, and you'll want to understand them.
You'll need to know them.
Yeah,
yep, definitely.
So it's all just part of training. There's so much to learn out there that you got to spend some time on a little bit of everything.
Well, Byron, I think it's time to get on to the meat and potatoes of our show today, part 2 with Steve Maxwell.
He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
He once grappled a polar bear to test out his bear hug. He once choked out an opponent using only his Wi-Fi connection. When he models for gi companies, he uses only his bad side. He only gets ringworm on his ring finger.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay listening, my friends.
You reach your maximum muscular strength. I think I felt the best I had ever felt when I was between 40 and 45. I mean, I actually felt as good as I did when I was a college wrestler. I felt that strong, that good. But then once you reach the half-century mark, you definitely notice a big bump and a drop-off. And I'm pretty convinced that, like in the age group competitions, let's say masters and senior 1, 2, 3, 4, they created that not because the guys physiologically can't compete with the younger guys. They did that because the guys don't have time to compete. Usually by the time a guy's 30, he has his career and, family, and, he's a working man now. He's a householder. He just doesn't have the time to go train like the younger guys. But in reality, physiologically, you don't really, a guy in his 40s can easily compete with a guy in his 20s. No problem.
If he's able to put the time in.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you who proved this over and over was Megaton Diaz. I respected that guy so much. There was a guy, he was like, mid-40s and still going to the Worlds and doing good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, but, I think a lot of guys could do that if they had the time to train. The problem is they don't. So they had to create these other categories for guys that just don't have the time to get on the mat that much and, don't. And plus, it's not even the time. A lot of times it's just the energy. You only have but so much energy, both mental and physical, and people underestimate the effect that mental and emotional toll can take. So if you're running a business or you're working a job that has a lot of stress, or maybe working for someone that's not so nice and they cause you a lot of stress, that can be very physically draining as well, man. So you only have but so much energy. And, both the physical and the mental take up that energy. So jiu-jitsu for many people is just like one of those fun things that they do at the end of the day. And sometimes they just don't have much left for it.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to your lifestyle jiu-jitsu camp. Is that targeted at a specific group of people? Like,
it's targeted for anybody.
Okay.
Anyone that just wants to see how I've been able to manage, over the, last half century and kept myself in the game. Hey, I'll share all my secrets with you. I have some really nice corrective exercises, and for sure we're going to be doing jiu-jitsu and so forth. I mean, there's plenty of guys that are way better qualified to show all the latest berimbolo, worm guard, Z guard, X guard, butterfly, rubber. I mean, you don't come to the camp for that. There's guys way, way better qualified to teach you all that stuff. But if you want to learn how to maintain a very, very high level of conditioning and well-being and so forth, this would be a good place for you to come. And I'll show you how to keep your joints strong and safe and resilient, even how to work through injuries and so forth. I'm not a rehab specialist. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. But I'll tell you, over the years, I've become my own doctor, my own rehab specialist, and just through frustration. Because most of the time, the medical profession are horrible at really helping you with stuff.
Yeah.
It's either don't do it, take this drug, or here, we want to operate. And I've worked myself through many, many pretty serious injuries and came up with corrective exercises that worked for myself and a lot of my students. Just through experimentation, I came up with some pretty good systems. So there was never a point when I was injured that I still didn't train in some way.
Yeah.
There's always a way that you can work around stuff. But one of the things I'm really animate about, you really shouldn't be producing injuries with your supplementary training. Now, jiu-jitsu sometimes is unavoidable. You have two people. It is a combat martial art. It is combat. So stuff's going to happen. Even if you train really light, you're going to pull something down again. You're going to hurt something. That's expected. That's all part of the game. That's something that you sign up for, basically, when you realize. But your supplementary training you should never hurt yourself. Your weight training, your body weight calisthenics, whatever you're into, if you're hurting yourself doing that or whatever, then you don't know what you're doing. You're making a big mistake. You're going about it all wrong. Your supplementary training should prevent injuries, not cause them. So a lot of kids out there, doing the crazy CrossFit and all this stuff, are yanking their joints apart with all this awful stuff, and they don't realize the harm they're doing. And you're basically not going to be able to do that stuff for very long, and it's going to keep you from doing the thing you really love, which is jiu-jitsu.
I love the way you look at it. That you're going to get bumped up and hurt a little bit in jiu-jitsu, but the stuff that you do to help you do jiu-jitsu, that's not acceptable to take injuries and time off because of stuff that happens on that. I never really thought of it like that, but that's a very great way to look at your off the mat training and how it could support you on the mat and just have a healthy lifestyle. And I imagine that's like with the camp will be a lot about like the off the mat training and doing that in a safe way and just that great lifestyle of being able to train until well on into that everybody else at your age has been forced to quit.
70, 80, 90 and beyond is like Elliot Gracie. But the other aspect too, of course, we will talk about diet. Obviously, there's no avoiding it.
Yeah.
I find dieting somewhat kind of a boring subject. People get so hysterical about it. But yeah, there'll be plenty about dieting, strength training, supplementary strength training. But also, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the classic Elliot Gracie stand-up self-defense.
Good. That sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that will definitely be stressed. What jiu-jitsu was originally intended for.
Yeah.
Keep smaller, weaker people safe from attack.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why people start jiu-jitsu, and then after a little while, it's just so fun that they forget about that and they just go in there and train and roll, and that's oftentimes it's kind of put to the side, and people still have that thirst for the self-defense, but they're not reminded of it. They're not. It's not brought in as often.
Yeah, and there's no reason why that can't be, have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Just a few minutes every class, just basic stand-up self-defense, and then, go and play. Have fun.
For a competitor today, I want to get a couple of things out of you here. What would be how would somebody find the balance of overtraining and taking enough time off, like to find that balance and be able to come into their match or to stay at a real healthy level?
Well, it's a well-known fact that the people that train the most or practice the most, so to speak, are usually the best.
Yeah.
But at what point does the training start to work against you? It's called the point of diminishing returns. For younger guys that are not particularly adept and maybe not even in that particular condition, they can train a lot because they're not even able to tax themselves that much with their training. But as you become more and more skillful and your skill sets get improved and so forth, you're able to, maybe push yourself a little bit harder with your conditioning and so forth. And as you get stronger and more conditioned, you'll find that it takes longer to recover. And as you age, the same thing also happens. It just takes longer to recover. So you got to be way more judicious with how hard you train and how often. So you can drill a lot, but most guys, where they say they just want to do light roll or drill, it ends up being a heavy roll, man.
Yeah.
I find you're just better off almost just staying out of the gym. So I would say for younger guys, you can train 4 or 5 times a week, no problem. But once you get over 40, you should cut it down to like 3 days a week. That's been my experience. You don't want to do much more than 3. There's plenty.
Yeah.
You're going to maintain your skills at a very, very high level. And, you know, the older guy just can't train as frequently, that's all. And if you give yourself those days off, you'll feel fantastic. But if you try to force it and go in there every day, then you're going to feel pretty beat up and you're going to get a lot of overuse injuries and postural problems. Unless you're an unusual person that can really, truly not train hard in the days you go in. But grapplers, I mean, let's face it, come on. We're all extremists, right? It's an extremist sport. I mean, what do you do in jiu-jitsu? You basically throw someone violently to the ground, right? And then you win by twisting or bending a joint until the person either screams in pain or taps out, sometimes both, screaming and tapping, or you choke the guy unconscious. You choke him to sleep. So that's an extreme sport by any stretch of the imagination. And it takes an extremist personality to do that type of sport. So being an extremist, you know, we love doing what we do. And there's always a tendency to just want to do more and more and more and more, you know? It's like you just can't have, like, just a couple, you know, tablespoons of ice cream. You can't just eat, like, a little bit. You end up eating the whole freaking pint. So you're almost better off just don't eat the damn ice cream in the first place because you're just going to end up blowing your diet and eating the whole damn thing, you know?
Yeah. And
that's how I see jiu-jitsu guys. They're better off maybe just staying out of the gym, you know, at least 3 days a week.
So
they would feel way better for it.
Yeah. So
there's this myth that you got to train hard every day, you know, twice a day, and there are guys that do that, but man, you will burn out. And you know, I did that in college wrestling. Man, we used to train every day. Sometimes we'd have 2 a days, like preseason. Yeah. And you know, a 20-year-old body can handle that kind of thing. But for the older athlete, you know, once you're over 40, you can't handle that. You're just going to burn out, get overuse injuries, get exhausted, get adrenal burnout. It's just too much, man. So, you know, take heed. Just 3 days a week is plenty, man. Plenty.
You're recommending
jiu-jitsu on.
Yeah, 3 days a week for jiu-jitsu. But for the other days that week, what would be a good thing that you would recommend that they would do to stay busy and stay active?
Well, every day, joint mobility. Joint mobility meaning there's certain types of exercises that you do to lubricate and nourish the joints. There's a whole bunch of different systems that I've combined together into my own little system. Some of it's based in Taoist yoga. Some of it's based in Qigong. A lot of it's based on the Russian mobility that I learned when I was in Russia. They had special exercises that the special ops soldiers would use that really make you feel quite good, really energized. You know, so I combined these different systems together with stuff that I knew from even back in the 1960s that we used to do as standard wrestling exercises. And I created this little system for myself, basically. But, you know, I felt so good. A lot of people wanted to learn it. So I just started showing more and more people this little system that I do. And I've been teaching it here in Sydney, as a matter of fact, a couple of days a week at a local club at a kind of like their version of the YMCA, like a police athletic club. It's the PYCY. And I've been going in there 12:30 a few times a week, and have a bunch of young fellows that come in there and work with me. But these are the kind of things that you can do on your off days. And, you know, your supplemental strength training, you certainly don't need to do a lot of explosive type lifting and all that kind of stuff. There's this whole myth that you got to train fast to be fast, or you got to lift the weights explosively to build your explosivity on the mat. Explosivity isn't that important in jiu-jitsu anyway. By the way, it's, you know, it's an attribute, but I never found, and I've never actually seen any real research to substantiate the idea that lifting weights fast or doing explosive, let's say, clapping push-ups or that type of plyometric stuff, that actually increases your speed and other non-related things. You get really good at doing those exercises, but the transference is nothing. Yeah. And there's much, much better ways to increase strength that are way safer on your joints. And so I show a lot of that stuff in my workshops. Actually, the exact opposite works great for jiu-jitsu, and that's slow training.
Yeah.
Slow speed training, high tension, even isometrics. Isometrics were all the rage. Even Olympic weightlifters were doing isometrics back in the 60s, and then they just kind of disappeared for a while. But they've made a big resurgence just recently. And I'm a huge fan of isometrics, but what I'm finding is a lot of the kids have no clue on how to do them. So it's something that I also teach. Isometric training, high tension body weight training. I'm not talking about like stunts either, you know.
Yeah.
People get really confused. Front levers and front planche and, handstands and all that kind of stuff is really cool, but it has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu.
I'm thinking of like
a lot of people get really confused.
Yeah.
There's demonstrating strength and power. For example, a demonstration of strength would be maybe a muscle up on the rings, or how about an iron cross on the rings? That's a demonstration of strength. And obviously the guy's really strong, but it's a very specific type of strength geared to that position. Is it the best way to strengthen your shoulders and your elbows? It is not. There are other more general ways to build strength that are much safer and much more productive and have a much higher transference to other non-related activities. So often when people are working on these specific feats or stunts or demonstrations, it's so specific that it has very little transference to other non-related stuff. Your strength training should transfer in a general way to all sports and activities. So a basic rule is the more skill that a particular exercise takes, the less transference it has to anything else. There's no doubt that you'll get stronger when you're doing anything, really. But it's not always the most objective and best way to do it. There's way better ways to get strong than a lot of these stunts and feet.
That makes sense. I'm trying to
higher care.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of as someone who's going to do a competition and they're not real experienced with conditioning their body, and maybe kind of a newer concept for them. They haven't competed for years, or maybe haven't competed really in anything, and they're getting into jiu-jitsu and they want to do a competition. How would you like if they're trying to get together like a morning routine to help get them started off in a good way? Do you have any recommendations for them to do something?
Yeah, mobility every single day.
Okay,
just to keep the body supple, including stretching. Static stretching can be a real boon. Generally speaking, I like to do the stretching at the end of the training, though. It's not a good idea to stretch before you train. So a lot of evidence that this could possibly actually make you more prone to injury than not, which is a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially stretching immediately prior to training. So you usually save your stretching to the end, but there's certainly nothing wrong with doing static stretching to help balance the body. The strength training, if you're doing a lot of jiu-jitsu, let's say you're getting on the mat, let's say 4 times or more a week, then one strength training a week is more than enough. You do not need to be training 3 or 4 weight trainings a week or strength trainings. Once a week. Maybe if you're not training all that heavy, twice a week. But certainly not more than twice a week. And I tried everything. Believe me, I tried every kind of routine. Every single guy that I worked with over the last 30 years with jiu-jitsu, we would find ourselves rapidly getting overtrained if we tried to do more than 2 conditionings a week. And in most cases, one we felt the best. And it was really funny because I interviewed a Russian wrestler at the Montreal Open back in the 70s. I actually fought against the guy. He kicked my ass. And he immediately then tried to defect to Canada. This is back during the days of the old evil empire, the USSR. And the guy tried to defect. His name was Victor Silverman. And I was talking to him in the locker room afterwards, just doing like a little article. I was actually writing stuff even back then. And I was absolutely shocked when he told me that he only lifted weights once a week. that he lifted weights 4 times a month. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I says, what? I thought you Russian dudes were lifting every day, twice a day, you know what I mean? And it wasn't true at all. They would do mostly sports-specific drills, and he said that they didn't even wrestle all out more than twice a week.
Wow.
But they would just drill at match speed, which gives you a tremendous amount of endurance. Just try doing like 20 high crotch single leg takedowns, pretty much nonstop at full absolute match speed. And they wouldn't even take each other down. They would just do the move. The guy would just stand there like a dummy. And then sometimes they would take the guy down, but that's freaking exhausting.
Yeah, that would be.
That is really tiring, and that's how they would get the sport-specific conditioning. So forget cardio. Cardio is kind of a myth. You could be the best runner in the world and die like a rat in 2 minutes on the mat. There's no reason to do, running or ellipticals or any of that stuff or bike. I mean, some guys think that it helps, but the transference is pretty minimal. There is no such thing as cardio. It's all basic muscular endurance, right? You take a runner and you put him on a bike and he dies,
Yeah.
You can get your heart just as strong from doing general strength training like a circuit as you can from anything else. And jiu-jitsu really builds the sport-specific conditioning required for what we do.
Yeah. So as long as you're able to get on the mat.
Just getting on the mat and doing, let's say you're a white belt or a blue belt and you're fighting 5 or 6 minute matches. So, start doing a whole bunch of 5 and 6 minute matches, just like you would in a tournament. But just, usually you get like anywhere between 5 to 10 minute rest in between matches. That's a really good way to train.
Okay.
Very, very sports specific, and you'll get the exact conditioning. If you can't really get on the mat that often, and you could simulate 5 minute or 6 minute matches by doing short circuits. Short, intense circuits of that same time of, your basic calisthenic movement patterns with, pull-ups and push-ups and dips and bodyweight squats. If you're really strong, you do one-legged squats, even one-arm push-ups if you're really strong, and give yourself a tremendous workout that way. But for the most part, you don't want to rely on outside conditioning. You want to rely on jiu-jitsu as your main source of conditioning. And then you want to do a general strength training at least once a week, certainly not more than twice a week. And believe me, I've tried it all. I've done everything, every kind of thing you can do. And it doesn't really matter what it is either. It could be body weight, it could be barbells, hey, even machines. Yeah. There's old Hammer Strength and old Nautilus machine circuits. People poo-poo that as always non-functional. Bullshit. When I was wrestling NCAA, I used to do this brutal Nautilus circuits like once a week. Oh my God almighty. They were intense. And anyone that tells you can't get strong from doing machine training, that's absolute nonsense. Matter of fact, the only NFL football team to go undefeated and win a Super Bowl was the 1973 Miami Dolphins under Don Shula. Guess what? Their primary conditioning was a Nautilus circuit and Nautilus machine. So,
that's awesome. That's amazing.
Don't say that that machine training is non-functional. That's silly. Your muscles don't know whether they're lifting buckets of horse shit or $100,000 MedX machine. It ultimately doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing something on a regular basis and you're making progressive overload and you're attempting to increase weight and or reps. But as I said earlier, though, there does come a point in a man's life where you're not going to increase his weight and his reps anymore.
Yeah.
You're not. Your days for setting PRs in the gym are long gone. So if your whole game was always about lifting a certain amount of weight or doing a certain amount of reps, and I had said this earlier, you're going to be greatly disappointed. For a lot of guys like me, it's a matter of holding on to what you've built over the years, not losing. Trying to see how little ground you can lose and try to maintain a high level. That's a good intrinsic goal.
That's a good healthy.
I'm not going to set any PRs, but hey, I can certainly maintain a very, very high level into advanced age. That's a very, very good goal for an older man. Trying to hold on to a certain level of what you've built over the years. I look at strength training for guys as kind of like money in the bank, you know.
Yeah,
you're saving a certain amount of money, and you're putting it in the bank for later, for future use.
Yeah, you're in Sydney, Australia right now for a little bit longer. Then you travel a lot. Yeah.
I pretty much different country every few weeks. Usually every winter I like to come to Sydney. I kind of hate the social hysteria. I'm a minimalist. I'm a digital nomad. I make my living from the internet, but also doing seminars. But obviously, I got to be someplace that has Wi-Fi, so that cuts out a lot of third world places. And then, I'll teach seminars. I'll teach jiu-jitsu. I'll show the Gracie self-defense. I'm hosted by people, so any listeners out there that would like to host a Steve Maxwell seminar, contact me through my contact page on my website. I'd be happy to talk to you. And then, I just kind of roam around. I don't own anything, by the way. No house, no car, no apartment, no furnishings, no storage locker somewhere with stuff in it, no car, nothing. I have one 45-liter bag, which is a convertible backpack. I hate those stupid roller things,
Yeah.
And try rolling a roller bag on cobblestone streets, or try changing trains, 3 or 4 trains in Germany or London in a busy train station, trying to yank those things up several flights of stairs, or in a snowstorm, try rolling it down the sidewalk, or in mud. You quickly learn that it's better to carry your belongings on your back. So they have some pretty cool convertible. How long have you had travel packs?
How long have you been able to?
I've been doing this since 2005.
Okay.
I got divorced from my ex-wife, Steve Maxwell. We had the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in the Eastern Seaboard. It went great for about 16 years, 17 years, I guess. And then after the divorce, I basically moved in a camper van and lived in there for about 3 years. I always had this thing where I wanted to live in a little RV, but not a big one. So I had this kick-ass converted camper van that was my home for 3 years. I drove across the United States coast to coast 8 times.
Wow.
And I actually talked to a young girl, a young woman. I call her young. She's like 10 years younger than myself, but to me she's young. And she traveled with me, man. She actually lived in that van with me. I mean, how many women do you know that don't care about materialism and don't care about clothes and jewelry and all that crap? Perfect traveling companion. And so she lived there with me. And then I just started traveling so much I didn't even know what to do with my camper van. You just can't leave it set someplace, So I decided, one trip would go to the next trip, which would go to the next place. Everything was linking together. And there was a period of time where I didn't even see that van for almost 6.5 months. And you got to maintain a vehicle. You can't just leave it sit. So I figured I'd sell it while it's still worth something. And then ever since then, wherever I'm at is my home. So, it was very liberating becoming a non-materialist and a full-time traveler. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like to spend my money. I'm known to buy, I love shoes and different technical shorts and clothes and stuff. I'm thinking about doing a blog on just equipment and stuff, because I've become a real expert at high-tech fabrics and stuff. I can really help people out that are looking to make their wardrobe into a very functional type of thing.
I'm curious, what kind of backpack do you have?
It's actually the Tom Bin Aeronaut. You can look that up. BIHN, Tom Bin.
Okay.
The Aeronaut. It was between that one and the Tortuga. If you look Tortuga, Tortuga, Tortuga backpack, it was a really tough decision between those two. I went with the more expensive Tom Bin, and never saw it. Man, what a freaking great bag that is. And, everything that I wear has to serve triple purpose since I don't have that much. It got to look good in public. I don't dress up anymore. Any place I'd have to wear a shirt and a tie or a sports jacket, I just don't want to go to that place. I've engineered my lifestyle that I don't have to go to places like that. I don't enjoy it. So, but it still has to look good in public. I don't want to look like a bum. And it also has to be quick dry, something I can wash in a sink. And it has to be really tough and wear well. And I got to be able to train in it. So all my clothes, my running shorts, my workout shorts, and my around town shorts are all the same thing. And with all the awesome high tech fabrics that a lot of the hiking and rock climbing clothes manufacturers are making, wow, some of the clothes are just fantastic. There's some awesome companies out there. So everything's like really high tech fabrics that are easily cared for. They got to be water resistant, spill proof. I could dump a cup of coffee on these shorts I'm wearing right now, and I could just wipe it off, and it won't even have a stain. And it would be fine.
Wow, that's cool. It sounds like when you're just going to have a few things, you're able to, or you want to make sure that they're the quality that
the absolute best. Right?
Yeah.
A few nice things is certainly great, but it is liberating not to be owned by your things.
Yeah.
It's, so many guys end up, basically working a job they don't particularly like, maybe even a horrible job, to buy stuff that they don't need. And then they got to maintain all that stuff, right? They got to maintain it and pay for it and upkeep it, and so forth. And your whole life can be just about your stuff. That's a terrible way. That's a terrible thing. I mean, that's a real waste of one's energy and life.
Obviously, like stress is unhealthy, and a lot of people carry a lot of stress for having a house they can hardly afford and all this stuff like that. But is there? I've never lived a lifestyle like you. Is there a lot of stress? Do you get some stress with not having a?
Oh, sure. I mean, sometimes you get to some pretty weird places, man. Sometimes. I was in Shanghai, China, not too long ago. China has that firewall up their anti-Google. And I kept using VPN addresses on my iPad so I could access my emails and keep up. Because, I make my living doing online personal training, fat loss programs, training programs, for everyone, from athletes to just regular housewives that just want to get their figures trimmed. And but that's my life. Blood. That's how I make my living. So not being able to access email, that was a bit stressful, And, sometimes you get into these weird situations in certain countries, with visas and things like that. Sometimes, just flying is stressful.
Yeah.
Just the nature of flying. I mean, you're in basically an artificial environment with all these electromagnetic fields. People don't realize how electromagnetic fields influence your own electromagnetic field. Basically, we're just a bunch of electrons floating around, and we're bioelectrical machines. Basically, is what the human body is. So these other things really, everything from radio waves to TV waves to microwaves to, neon lights to high-power electrical lines. I mean, it all has an influence on your energy and your body. But it's particularly concentrated in airlines, in an airplane, in a jet. And that can be tiring, man. You're breathing that canned air. Sometimes my flights are up to 14 hours. And it's just sitting. I mean, think of sitting in a chair as the new smoking. That's just about how harmful it is.
Yeah.
So imagine then sitting for like a 12 to 14-hour flight in that artificial environment. And that's very taxing on your body. They can leave you tired. And then if you're moving a whole bunch of time zones, there's that little thing going on there. The disruption to your sleep, the disruption to your eating, It's like things get kind of messed up a little bit for a while, so that could be stressful to the body. But I do meditation and visualization. I'm very big into affirmations and things like that, and you can mitigate a lot of the damage, of course, just by keeping your mind calm and using some of these mind techniques you can override a lot of the negative physical things that are going on when you're traveling. But I'm pretty adaptable.
Yeah.
You get really good at being adaptable. It's kind of a skill set, just like jiu-jitsu is. You learn just to roll with it. Occasionally, there'll be a mess up with the airline, a cancellation, or I've actually missed flights before and had to eat the full ticket. Man, that's always a little stressful.
Yeah, that'd be pretty disappointing or hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, when you travel as much as I do, it's bound to happen at some point. But, I've been really, really, really fortunate, though. Most of my travel has been just absolutely picture perfect. Of course, I visualized that, I visualized that happen. I absolutely, always see everything going smoothly. And I always generate the feeling in my body that it's going to be that way. And, usually the kind of mental energy you're putting out there, that's pretty much what you attract. So you pretty much get in this world what you put out, the kind of energy in versus energy out.
Yeah.
So if you're a scary Mary or you're a warrior, you kind of almost create the very thing that you're afraid of. And I've seen that time and time and time again. So it's really important to get mental and emotional control. And a lot of people, they have physical skill sets, but they don't have good mental, emotional skill sets. And that's very important if you're going to be a competitor in jiu-jitsu. You've got to learn to control your mind.
Yeah.
That's something that most coaches don't work with, A lot of, there's a whole psychology behind sport as well. But you'll find that a lot of the stuff that works for sport also transcends into your normal daily life.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like you're talking about, you attract it and it just happens to you. But you have a positive attitude about you're traveling, and then something happens. It's going to end up okay. You have the positive attitude. But if you have the negative attitude, I knew it was going to happen, and now it's going to be even worse, and it's just. Sometimes, for me, that's the way it seems to be.
Spiral, and you're basically creating these scenarios. And I had this really awesome spiritual guru that used to tell me, "Hey, it's not about what happens so much; it's about the way you think about it and the way you handle it."
Wow, that's cool. That's a good way to think of it.
I would give you a perfect example. Early in my training with this guy, we were at a restaurant and this is back in the day when people were still allowed to smoke in restaurants. And there's a guy sitting beside me that's basically blowing his smoke over to me, and I'm really sensitive to cigarette smoke, and I'm getting madder by the second about the cigarette smoke. And I'm trying to, I'm fussing a little bit. I'm trying to decide what I want to do about it. I'm thinking about, doing something almost violent, And I'm looking at my guru friend, who was this, at that time, I consider him incredibly highly spiritually developed. And I'm saying, doesn't that bother you? You don't seem to be upset at all. And he said, Steve, your mental agitation is doing you way more harm than any of that cigarette smoke possibly could. He says, the guy's within his rights to smoke it. There's not anything I can do about it. I'm supplementing the damage that smoke could possibly do by keeping a positive mindset. And I'm able to supplement. And I thought, wow, man, that is so deep, man. He truly wasn't bothered by it. And he was right. My upset about it was way worse than any damage that little bit of smoke was going to do me for that short time I was in that restaurant. So how often do we get in situations where we agitate, our minds get really agitated and we create all this tension that is way more damaging than anything that's actually happening. I
hadn't thought of that, but that's you were doing as much damage, if not more, to yourself by getting upset and worked up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no sense trying to fight what is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You ain't going to change it by being upset. You're just going to make yourself even more, you're going to make yourself sick, basically. So just breathe, calm down. Everything works out for the best. Everything will resolve itself at some point. No sense, getting yourself all, crazy about stuff that happens, because you can't do anything about it most of the time. I mean, you can create good situation for yourself by keeping a positive mindset all the time, as much of the time. Of course, no one can do it all the time. Yeah. But, there will be times when things happen that have the appearance of being really negative. Sometimes they're blessings in disguise, I mean, we've all read about the guy that was late for his flight and he missed it. He's all upset and he's eating the ticket only to find out that, there was a plane crash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that has happened. But, I mean, how many times in our life were we late for an appointment or we missed the cutoff and perhaps it avoided a greater disaster?
Yeah.
Maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Maybe you were supposed to be late to that appointment. Maybe it was like that higher mind, that higher part of yourself that was protecting you from something. I mean, I'm a real optimist when it comes to that kind of stuff.
You didn't.
So I was looking for the silver cloud.
Yeah.
And, I just don't question what is. It is what it is, and I just have to deal with it as it is. And I'm going to try to stay as calm as I can. And I have to tell you, though, Byron, I wasn't always that way. I used to have a pretty bad temper, but what I was doing was it was creating a sickness in me. I used to flare up and get pretty mad and rail and rant about stuff, and I just learned that, wow, man, that's worse than the actual thing that I actually rail and rant about.
I think that's common. I mean,
it didn't help a thing.
Yeah,
I just agitated myself. So
I think that we could all
take
look
that
at
mindset even on the mat. You can keep that same mindset.
Well, cool. How you've got a really crazy schedule. It seems like I'm looking at your calendar here online. How could somebody keep up with you and keep up with what you're doing?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm Steve Maxwell, SC, and I'm also on Facebook. And I'm always posting pictures, videos, put up diet stuff, exercises, where I'm at. I get to some pretty cool, exotic locales. So, even if you are stuck in a snowdrift somewhere in the East Coast, you can live vicariously through me and follow me and like my Facebook. And then, of course, the website is my main contact forum, Maxwell SC. I have people that run that website full-time. I have a webmaster and my young assistant, I call her my young teen assistant. She answers all emails. And so if you have any inquiries or would like to contact or just keep up with my nomadic lifestyle, that's the way to do it. The amazing digital age, I was almost 50 years old before I started having my first laptop, and I just fought against it for years. I never really learned how to touch type, and my typing skills are pretty mediocre, so I really didn't do it for the longest time. But once I actually, got my first little computer, and then my first phone, a tech phone, was a BlackBerry. I realized, wow, you can really communicate with these things. This thing is awesome. And then I just took off, and now I'm an iPad guy, and I try to answer all emails. And if you would have told me, let's say 20 years ago, I'd be making my living, using all this tech stuff, it's like, you're crazy, man. But, the World Wide Web, what an amazing thing, it allows people to communicate. And we're talking as if we're in the same room together, and I'm on the whole other side of the world from you, a day ahead,
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing if you stop to think about it, and definitely I'll put some links on the show notes there for everybody to go find you. But keep up with you, and it's interesting to see where you go and what you're up to, and always good advice coming out of you. It's just a great resource for everybody to go check out.
Hey, well, thanks, Byron. So it was a real pleasure, being on your podcast. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, and appreciate all the great advice, and be happy to have you back sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be thrilled. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, that wraps up our interviews with Steve Maxwell. Like I said before, if you missed the first one, go back and check it out. Tons of great information. It's just fascinating talking to Steve Maxwell, even if he wasn't a black belt that had been a fitness on the top of the food chain as far as fitness health goes for anyone around the world. Just a great guy and really interesting to hear. So if you missed it, check it out. Next week, Draculino will be stopping by and giving us an interview. Gary?
Boy, we're lucky to interview somebody as talented as him. So going to be a great show.
Yep, definitely looking forward to getting that one to you guys. Gary, we still have a few gi patches left.
And gi patches are going quick. We love it that everybody's going on to our site or going on to iTunes and leaving a review and make the review funny, and we'll get you out a gi patch. We'll send it to you free of charge if you live in the United States.
Yep, just after you write the review. It does take a few days to post. That's fine. It doesn't really matter to us. Send us an email. Tell us that you wrote a review, and we should be expecting it to come through. So we'll need your address, and get you a gi patch. We're happy to do it, and thank you guys for the reviews that you've written so far. And if you've written one and not send us an email, go ahead and send us an email if you want a gi patch. If you don't, that's cool too.
And same thing, too, like Byron's saying, send us an email. You can do it on the Facebook page. You can also send us an email to bjjbrick@gmail.com. But if you know anybody, let's say your instructor or even yourself, somebody worthy or somebody that would be a good interview, give us some advice, and if you're going to tell your instructor, at least ask him first to make sure he's interested. But and then also too, if you have any, a lot of our listeners have a blog or write articles. If you have any cool articles, send it to us, and maybe we can put it on a show. But and finally, if you have any advice or questions, concerns, same thing. Just give us an email. We are very excited whenever somebody writes us and asks us some questions or has some concerns, but we like that.
Absolutely, that's always a highlight of our days when we get some great feedback or can help somebody with a question they have about jiu-jitsu. We both enjoy that a lot.
Especially, me. I'm not a very popular guy. Byron's pretty popular, but so I like getting emails. I think that's pretty neat.
Gary is okay. I don't even know how to respond to that, but Gary's a nice guy, and everybody seems to like him that knows him, so he's popular enough, I think. Gary, I'm excited. We've got a past guest coming in town here, and we're going to get to train with him.
I am very excited for that also. Rolly Delgado is coming to Wichita, Kansas, April 4th, 2015. Fox Fitness, 12 o'clock, right, Byron?
I don't know the exact time, but if you're off that day, check it out for sure.
Yeah, so Rolly Delgado is going to come to Fox Fitness here in Wichita, Kansas. Anybody in the Midwest, definitely come check it out. Going to do his legal leg locks seminar, so I'm very excited for it.
Yep, as am I, and I'll be there with you, buddy. It's going to be a great time on the mat.
We're going to be walking with limps for a couple weeks, but everybody we train with afterwards is going to be walking with limps, thanks to all the stuff we're going to learn.
It's like that ripple effect, right? Get earlier on the ripple.
It's like a tsunami.
Tsunami. Man, I don't know what you're doing for leg locks, but you got me beat, buddy.
Hey, when I'm training with Rolly, it's going to be like a tsunami.
That's right, man. If you enjoyed the show this week, definitely we appreciate if you share it. Tell a friend about it. Tell somebody on the mat that you help get the word out. That means a lot to us that you would recommend this to a friend. Not necessarily just online or whatever, but just in person. You're on the mats grappling. Mention it if you can. It means a lot to us.
And then also, going back to that, give us a review, and then we'll send you out a patch. And that way, when you're on the mats, people can ask you about the patch, and then you can recommend us.
Yeah. What is that weird patch with the... What?
Who are those weird people?
I looked at the other day, looking at making stickers, but I don't know. I don't know what you put a sticker on anything. Anyway, but be nice to have something else to give away.
Yeah, we could put them on our car.
There you go. We'll put them all over your car. I already have the gi patch is weird enough. Have a little picture of miniature me on my car.
Well, hey, maybe I can. What do they call it? Now I can't even think of the word where they put all the the wording and the symbols all across your car to say BJJ Brick. How did I forget the name of what they call that?
Oh, you mean like the big graphics that do on the window? Oh man.
Yeah. Well, even not just the window, even on the car there too.
Oh, like an advertising thing.
Yeah. Yep. We can do that to your car.
Yeah, that's that's fine. I really don't care what my car looks like, but it's not going to help. Or if anybody wants to do it to their own, feel free to do that. You can pay for all the charges and everything, and that'd be great.
Send us a picture.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Yeah, and we will get you online, or we'll get you on this show.
Oh, Gary,
we'll interview you.
We should also mention, speaking of artwork and graphics, anybody who has a martial arts gym out there, or anything that you might need some custom graphics work done, our buddy Taylor McMillan does outstanding work. There's contact information on the website. He's done a lot for us, and some of his past work is on there as well. Go to the website. I think it's under. You can find it if you just search on our website for logos. He'll pop right up. Send the guy an email. He's a purple belt. He trains all the time. He does graphics for a living, and we'd love to send him a little bit of business. That'd be great.
And on top of that, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Absolutely.
So definitely, if you need something, get a hold of Taylor. He'll take care of you.
Yeah, and then he always lets me know when somebody gets a hold of him, and it makes me feel good. So, all right, guys. So it's been a fun week. Next week, Draculino. Good times.
Tune in next week, and as always, we appreciate you listening.
And stay sweaty, my friends.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Gary's a nice guy, and everybody seems to like him that knows him, so he's popular enough, I think. Gary?
Yes, Byron?
Let me think of what I was going to say real quick here, because I totally went blank on this one. What was I going to say? I don't have a clue. I'm sure it was... almost had it.